Hello everyone, I am E2 and today's video is, once again, about charging batteries for micros. In my case that means only Heelys, but it could also include quads, planes and maybe even cars. I'm not sure about that though, the cars I mean. As we all know, there are generally two major ways of doing this. Parallel charging and serial charging. I have to say though, I'm not the biggest fan of parallel charging for a rather obvious reason. Parallel charging is kind of like black box charging. And to all I can see, stock chargers follow the same principle as well. Makes you wonder why I'm ultimately also not the biggest fan of stock chargers. A little more than a week ago, however, I saw an ad on RC Groups and decided spontaneously to give the promoted product a try. Because it seems to me this might turn out to get pretty close to being the ultimate charging solution, for micro batteries anyway. However, it comes with a comparably hefty price tag. That being said, let's take a look at the Hitec X4 micro multi-charger. Wherever you try to get it from, it is sold rather evenly for a price of roughly $50 shipped. The X4 is a multi-battery charger for up to 4 micro batteries. So it's obviously not as multi as a standard paraboard or parallel charging cable, which are usually for 6 or sometimes even more batteries would be. Plus, if you make your paraboard yourself, your only limit for the total amount of batteries that can be charged is ultimately the capacity of your charger. But I think 4 batteries is a pretty decent amount, considering it is basically possible, under the right circumstances, to charge another 4 batteries during the time it takes to fly the first 4 empty. A similar status can be applied to serial or balanced charging, where the batteries are actually charged in series rather than parallel. If you already own a good charger, which means one of those that the people generally tend to call hobby grade, you can charge 3 or 6 or with a little DIY even more batteries in series, which I would always favor over parallel, as it is actually possible to really monitor what happens inside every individual cell. This, however, will also come with a noticeable price tag, which is why, at least in my opinion, most people seem to stick with paraboards or stock chargers. So what made me think the X4, considering its $50 price tag, may be a very viable, if not actually the best alternative for charging one cell batteries? At least the best one I know. Well, let's take a look inside the box and find out. Opening the box. We find a basic manual, the actual charger, a power cord, and alligator clips. The alligator clips are for a DC power source, like for example a car battery. By the way, I said basic manual because I already have a question that is not addressed in the manual itself, and I can imagine there might be more of them to come up. But now let's take a closer look at the X4 charger itself. As I already mentioned, the X4 can charge up to 4 batteries at a time, which by itself is not overly impressive. But on the other hand, to be honest, it's not too bad either. What I found really appealing about the X4, however, is that these 4 batteries can be almost any type. The 4 most common plugs are pre-installed for every charge slot. The plug for MCPX, V911, 922, 944 and the HiSky HFP 100 or HCP 100 for example. The plug for Nano CPX, MSR, MSRX or GW9958. And by the way, I just dug out the adapters from my Blade 120 SR times. And guess what? The X4 can charge regular JST plug single cell batteries as well. The plug for the V933, 955, HiSky, HFP80 and HCP80. and most of the Valkyra micro Heelys and quads as well. The plug for 9 Eagles Heelys, like for example the Solo Pro 3D or the Solo Pro 125, and possibly Heely Max. But I don't have one of these, so I can't really say for sure. I am also sure there are many other RC models which I have not explicitly mentioned, which can also use one of these plugs. Each battery slot has its own LED display that will show voltage, current and capacity in a loop, constantly switching between the three. But now we get to the feature which I think, unfortunately I don't have any proof yet though, will raise the X4 above the general crowd. Each battery slot has its own dial to set the amperage between 0.1 and 1.0 amps. Again, this alone would not be anything special, as many other chargers offer the possibility to adjust current in 0.1 amp steps. However, those dials did not have 9 separate settings where the dial kind of locks in. In other words, at 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 and so on until 1.0 amps. The dials move smoothly all the way from the minimum to the maximum setting, which suggests the current may be seamlessly adjustable. And that would be a first, at least for me. And particularly on a, in this case, only $50 charger, as it means it will be possible to charge, for example, a 160 milliamp MSR battery at exactly 1 C. And the manual actually seems to support this assumption, as it shows a charge current of 0.12 amps in the exemplary drawing. And finally we have the start-stop button, which will conclude the exterior examination. The X4 also has its own built-in power supply. Which, again at least for me, is a very positive feature. External power supplies will cost at least another $10 to $15, and there is not much of a limit until you're in the 3-digit range. This can also serve as at least a partial justification for the elevated price point of the X4. And thanks to its compact size and the included alligator clips, it is even possible to use the X4 at the flying field. Summing it up, with the X4 it is possible to charge 4 different 1-cell batteries with different plugs and completely different capacities at the exact same time. I dare say it should be hard to find this level of versatility in any other charger I know, even the big, hobby-grade ones. Except you create the versatility yourself. But even making some DIY adapters to be able to choose from many different plugs will still leave the limitation based on significantly different battery capacities intact. As an example, with the X4 it is possible to charge a 150 mAh Nano CPX battery, a 500 mAh MCPX battery, a 300 mAh Solo Pro 125 battery, and an 850 mAh Valkyra X1 battery all at the same time. In other words, the X4 is actually 4 independent chargers in one. Well, this concludes the general introduction for the Hitec X4 Micro Multi-Charger. I will post a video about my actual charging experiences soon. As usual, thanks for watching and happy flying to you all. E2 out.